Hello, everybody. I have no idea where Mark is, but I do know where Rick Rosner is, so I'm going to bring him up.
Hello.
Yeah, where'd Mark go?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, he's usually supposed to start this, and I was looking on the internet and I didn't see him here.
All right, I guess we should let's go over to Drudge and see what's going on. You know, the story I've been following, of course, is Kimmel.
Well, that's right. You used to work for Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, and he's a good guy. The one of the ironies, the whole situation is Colbert and Kimmel are both good Christians, both good Catholics who espouse, good values, who should be embraced by MAGA, except that they make jokes about their guy.
Well, isn't that what they're supposed to do?
Yeah. And Trump wants all the late night talk shows off the air, which is he's crushing or wishes to crush a 71-year-old. The Tonight Show came on in 1954, 71 years ago. 13 presidents have been joked about in late night. Only one of them can't handle it and is illegally using the FCC to drive them off the air.
Really? Okay. Well, see, interesting that the FCC can apparently drive people off the air. I know what their arguments are, that it's political talk. But wait a minute. Is it really political talk or is it humor? In other words, I mean, the thing is, it's late night shows. I mean, they've been going on for years. And there was a very famous person called Voltaire. I just put in Voltaire, but I know no one gets what he said. He said something similar to, I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend you with my life that you have the right to say it.
Yeah.
And interesting that apparently in the United States they don't have that. And of course, I'm not sure if they have it in Russia either. And there's a lot of places are like that. But what gets me is that when they do stuff like this, it puts a cooling effect.
Yeah. Well, so I think
to exercise First Amendment rights. I'm not sure what they did. Honestly, it was legal.
The FCC yesterday, the head of the FCC goes on a conservative podcast and says he would welcome affiliates, I believe, taking action against ABC for what Kimmel said. And what Kimmel said was nothing. Kimmel said nothing bad about.
Yeah, I read it.
You've seen the clip, I'm sure.
Yeah, I saw the clip. It was benign.
And within an hour, two sets of affiliates, Nexstar, which is 32 affiliates, and Sinclair, another 32 affiliates. So they were no longer going to run Kimmel unless, or no longer, I don't know, they threatened ABC.
Yeah, right. Well, they threatened ABC with a license, but see, the real problem I have is that you do have a First Amendment right. In other words, the freedom of speech shall not be abridged. And those are pretty strong rights that exist all the way even to Magna Carta. I mean, it predates that to like 1215. And the whole theory was that allows for people to express their opinions openly without fear of retaliation. Okay, now wait a minute. Okay, now also realize, though, that Kim, of course, in her infinite wisdom, decided to put some things on our social media network, and we got taken down in a lot of places because social media, you're not immune either. She begged and pleaded and got us back up on YouTube, but YouTube was the first to strike us, which we don't get that many views through YouTube anyway, so I don't really care. It's a place that we really park stuff, but people don't really watch a lot of our stuff on YouTube. And I am looking for, I just put in a feeler in for another distribution site that gets us to, I'm going to talk to them later on this month, that gets us to Pluto, Fubo, and all these sites in Asia that we're not even broadcasting. They actually.
Great. I mean, that gets you another 2 billion potential viewers.
I know, right. Well, this group broadcasts through 300 channels, including cable and through the only ones I recognized was Fubo and I think Hulu.
Well, let's ask Sasha. Sasha, do they tell a lot of jokes on Russian TV?
I'm not watching Russian TV these days.
But you grew up there.
Russia, well, we got struck out of Russia a long time ago when the war started. We had 20,000 verifiable viewers in Russia. It went down to 0, and they cut off all access to the internet from Russia.
So
When I say 0, maybe we get 100.
what the FCC is doing here, so Twitter used to be fun. I was on Twitter to read 1,000 jokes a day because there were hundreds and thousands of comedians who were all there. Then Elon Musk buys Twitter and chases away, anybody who wants to have fun, and lets back on a bunch of anti-Semites and racists, and turns it into a miserable place to be. So we're seeing the suppression of humor in America, and Trump is terrible for humor because he's
well, you never see him laugh. Do you ever see Trump laugh?
Not really, no.
He never laughs. Okay, it's not like you never see him laugh. It's almost this guy never has a good time in life.
But also it's bad when you have to come up with jokes about somebody for 9 straight years. That you run out of material. It's like when Michael Jackson was having his troubles, was in court all the like it goes from being funny to sad, and you hate having to come up with jokes for the 3rd straight month about one person.
Right. Yeah. Well. Also, let's really take a look at this, because remember, we broadcast through streaming media, which is not part of the FCC. So streaming media, you can go on to Roku, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. So this gets broadcast in a lot of places. Roku and Amazon Fire are 2 ones that are actually hard to get into. The other ones are actually almost anybody can do it through StreamYard. All right, but it's not controlled by the FCC because it's considered internet streaming media. Now let's go to what the problem that he has. What Kimmel has. His show is on FCC, has FCC jurisdiction. I don't know how to describe it, which is ABC, NBC, CBS.
Yeah, we have the broadcast networks, the old broadcast network.
Correct. Okay, the broadcast networks, and some of them actually are starting to have, because I was at the NAPTI conference, Fox, what was it? No, Newsmax. I was talking to Chris Ruddy. He was moving into streaming media. It's like streaming media for them is a mystery. Seriously, what we do is a mystery for them. They're all into traditional media. Okay, the problem with traditional media, you have FCC jurisdiction. The good news for us, we don't have FCC jurisdiction. However, we have another interesting problem. The places we broadcast through, let's take a look. Facebook monitors all of the stuff we talk about, like no kidding. And if they don't like it, because we crack a Charlie Kirk, I guess that's his name, joke, they'll take you down. And Facebook has taken our network down before because they didn't like what we said. Another one we broadcast is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best. They do not take you down for anything. Okay, they're really is a great thing. I think they're owned by Microsoft now, but they did take us down because somebody, you wouldn't believe it, in the middle of what we're talking about, we got hacked and a porn show came right on in when we're talking. I'm not kidding. And I'm sitting there at the controls and going like, how do you get rid of this? Eventually I was able to get rid of it, but what they did is they struck down the whole.
Okay. Can we talk about the FCC again for 1 second?
Yeah. The FCC is pretty interesting. I don't handle it.
But let's talk about the deal that made television possible with the government. So in the early days of TV, and for the next 50 years, the shows were broadcast via radio waves over the air, and people caught them on their antennas, and it went down into the TV. And the FCC, the deal they made was, we are providing you these exclusive use of these radio wavelengths to broadcast your shows for free. We're setting aside this part of the radio spectrum for you.
Right. That's what
and in return, you have to perform a public service, which is, and in general, the solution was, the public service was, that the broadcast networks did national news every day. That was the deal. And they also agreed to be regulated by the government. So there were all sorts of, George Carlin was famous for the 7 words you can't say on TV.
Say, right. Yeah, and they'd strike them. Yeah. Yeah. And so the FCC has over the airwaves.
Yeah, but nobody broadcasts over the airwaves anymore. It's
they do. They broadcast through cable. They broadcast. Actually, they do broadcast over the air. What's happening is that
but that's not over the air. That's through a cable. I don't know that.
They broadcast through cable, but you can actually put your rabbit ears. I've done that on occasion and received TV on rabbit ears, but it's really hard, and you only get a couple of channels. In other words, it's a declining industry. And when I'm at the NAPTI conference, they say the declining industry is the rabbit ears. It's going down. The other declining industry is cable. Okay, because cable had a vice grip, but it's going down. And the one that's going up is everything is being streamed on the internet, like what we're doing. So this area, like it or not, is taken off, but it doesn't have, FCC doesn't have jurisdiction.
No, so you can say the F word, like it's
you can do almost anything you want. Yeah, you have a lot of freedom on streaming media, which is what we're doing. And it goes through your, what I call your traditional channels. But these traditional channels are owned by major tech companies. And we'll go pick on YouTube right now, because we did get stricken from YouTube and taken down from Google, because Google owns YouTube. If you start, or we started, doing a lot of Charlie Kirk or Trump negative stuff, believe it or not, YouTube will take you down. It's because who owns YouTube? Google, and Google wants to be good with the administration, so they are sucking up right now. So Google's sucking up, YouTube's sucking up, Facebook is sucking up, LinkedIn, for whatever reason, and LinkedIn is pretty conservative. They're owned by Microsoft, and they kind of like they just kind of stay out of all the politics, and they're more self-governed. In other words, if you talk a lot, I know we're broadcasting through LinkedIn, but if you talk too much about politics, their membership will yell at you. What are you doing? Talk about politics. We want you to talk about business related stuff. You see what I mean? So LinkedIn is more self-regulated. We own channels on Roku, but because we own our own channels, we don't get stricken. Now, that doesn't mean they can't after a while, because it's quite possible, but they don't. And Amazon, we own our own channel on Amazon Fire. We don't get stricken from Amazon because we own our own channels. And I am looking to, at least between now and the end of the year, going into the major Asian and European markets and expanding some of the distribution through Fubo. And they claim that we can get on Fubo, whatever that is, Hulu, and a couple of these other ones that are, I call them minor channels, but when you add them up, that's about 200 million people.
Before we move on, I want to say one more thing about the FCC and Kimmel. It's illegal, actually, against the law for the FCC to make threats that infringe on freedom of speech. But like all the illegal stuff that Trump is doing, who's going to enforce it?
Yes, that what you just said is very interesting about the law. There's the law, and then there's the application. It's like the area I practice in pensions. I'm trying to explain it to a non-attorney. It's really hard. There's the law, and then there's the application. Some of our actuaries say it's the fiction of the law. So there could be a law, like you just said, that they can't do what they did. However, there has to be a lawsuit and an enforcement mechanism through the courts to do that. In other words, your friend Jimmy has to file a wrongful termination suit. Seriously. Then he's got to wind his way through it. Trial court. I mean, this all takes time.
Well, he hasn't been terminated yet. Negotiations are on.
He hasn't been terminated. I wonder if he could file a wrongful suspension suit. You know,
he wouldn't. He wants, for the sake of his possibly 200 employees, he wants to get back on the air. These guys who are Colbert, Kimmel, all the late night guys, they're all good people. And they all care deeply about their staffs and the families of their staffs. And so Kimmel doesn't want to burn it all down. If he
Sure.
has to eat a little bit of shit, he might, but that's what if you notice, nobody from Kimmel has said anything. Nobody from ABC has publicly said anything. They don't want to screw up the negotiations.
Yeah. No. I do understand it. But, the thing is, we're looking at from another standpoint. It looks like it's a serious First Amendment infringement. In other words, the thing is, if you look at the First Amendment, and I know that everybody's so strong on the Second Amendment, to the extent where I think it should be repealed because they're way too crazy about it. But the First Amendment, notice why it's First Amendment. Because the founders of the country really believed in the freedom of speech shall not be abridged, and then no government can create a law to infringe upon it.
Well, I did what you are talking about. I sued. I went on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire,
right? And
they asked me a question. They give you 4 possible answers. They screwed up their research, and the right answer wasn't in there. Would I have known the right answer if it were in there? Maybe, probably not. But in every previous case where they'd done bad research, they let the person back on. With me, they were like, nah, get it. They were tired of letting people back on. So I sued them. And it wasn't great because at one point I was working for ABC while suing ABC. And I can't really get booked. I'm too old kind of anyway to get booked on a quiz show anymore because I'm the guy who sued a quiz show. You would not want a contestant on who sued a quiz. I've tried to get on and the only one I could get on was, are you smarter than a drunk person? Where they could be drunk.
Okay.
And I can't really work on quiz shows because they don't want that guy.
Because
I pissed in my bed. So similarly, Kimmel will not do any legal stuff. He wants to help. He wants to, for the sake of his people, he wants to get back on the air.
Okay, so he's going to try to settle this basically. Outside of court, so he's not going to.
No, he's going
to engage in conversation rather than litigation.
Right. Also for things he would never litigate this, and also, imagine if he were so insane as to litigate it, it would take years to move.
Well, that's the practical problem. In other words, he literally could. The case I had, which I litigated, was 10 years before it reached the U.S. Supreme Court. And so the thing is, you could have a decade horizon on a case like this, or it could be shorter. But short could be, 3 years, 5 years, something like that.
Let's talk about the kind of shit that the affiliates want Jimmy Kimmel to eat before he can get back on the show. They want him to apologize. He was on the show that was due to start shooting right before he got pulled. He was going to clarify his comments from Monday, and that would have probably probably would have helped the situation. But so they want an apology, Sinclair, this chain, and they want him to give money to Charlie Kirk's family and to Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization. Now, I'm just guessing. I don't know. I'm assuming Kimmel would be okay with giving a big chunk of money in the 6 figures at least somewhere. But to Turning Point, I would assume that among the things they're negotiating is where he would give the money. Jimmy is a really charitable guy. He has no problem. He loves, doing charity, but I'm not sure that he would consider Charlie Kirk's organization a deserving.
So wait. I'm curious because I came in late, and we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel, and we're trying to make Jimmy Kimmel out to be a bad guy, as if he did something wrong.
No, we're not. Rick used to work for Jimmy Kimmel before he started.
And Jimmy Kimmel is a good guy.
But my question is, what my question is, based on your comments saying that he's coming on to apologize and this and that and the other thing, they want him to do this. What did he do that was wrong?
Well,
No, you don't understand. That's the settlement possibilities. In other words, see, he's going to have Jimmy's going to have some decisions to make.
No,
Okay.
but that's not my question. My question is, what did he do that was wrong?
He didn't do anything wrong.
It doesn't matter. Okay, I mean,
that's part of
it's the settlement.
That's part of the
You're not
problem,
looking at right and wrong.
because
we either admit nor
So-
deny liability.
so wait,
No.
let me clarify. Let me
Move ahead,
clarify
baby.
because Jimmy Kimmel didn't do anything wrong. That's a problem because he doesn't feel like he has anything to apologize for or make a charitable contribution for. So that's part of. I'm sure that's what.
No, Rick, you said that's part of the problem. If he didn't do anything wrong, but you're forcing him to say he did, that is a problem. He did not do anything wrong. So then on top of that, you're trying to get him to say he did something wrong to appease a bully, to appease a wannabe authoritarian dictator who is constantly doing this. So how does that fix our problem? Because it doesn't sound like Jimmy Kimmel is a problem. It sounds like the individual who is stifling our First Amendment is the problem.
Yeah, that's clear. If there's a bully at your middle school who is trying to dunk your head in the toilet, that's a fucking problem. And so it's a problem when one side says we didn't do anything wrong, and the other side, the bully side, says you have to eat shit about it, and that's a problem that has to be negotiated, apparently.
No, it doesn't have to be negotiated. That's the issue. We're sitting here saying that one individual who did absolutely nothing wrong, and we'll use your bully analogy. Where the bully is trying to make this man eat poo. But this man didn't do anything wrong, but the bully is trying to make him eat poo. But we have to negotiate that this man will only eat poo on Wednesdays and Thursdays to make the bully happy. Why does he have to eat poo in the first place? He didn't do anything wrong.
Because
so that's not going to appease the bully. That's only going to keep making that's going to empower individuals just to do the same thing the bully is doing. It fixes nothing. It causes more problems.
Jatovia, it doesn't matter. Okay, see, the thing is,
it does matter.
A lot of settlements, they neither admit nor deny liability. However, we're going to pay you X, Y, Z.
Again,
Nick, you're Nick, trying to be a purist.
No, I'm not trying to be a purist, Nick. Nick, that's where you're wrong. What you're trying to do.
What are you trying to do, counselor?
Did you want to know what I'm trying to do? What I'm trying to do is point out the fact, Nick, you asked me what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is point out the fact that one person did not do anything wrong. What is going on is this individual, honestly, he is being attacked and his freedom of speech is being taken away, which is the same thing that is going on in smaller entities where people are being fired for saying particular things that others don't like. That is an attack on freedom of speech, and they are utilizing the government to do so. What we're cheering on and saying, well, this is okay now that we can do this, so therefore freedom of speech doesn't really mean anything anymore. So therefore we don't have freedom of speech. We have freedom of what you want me to say. That's what you're asking, and that's what you're saying.
I'm saying this: live, fight, run away. Live to fight another day. Sometimes,
how many times must we run away?
How many times did Bunker Hill get evacuated? Why did you stay there until you all died? It's because they wanted to live, fight, run away, so they could live and fight another day. See,
that doesn't work here, Nick. Nick, let me explain why that does not work. Nick, let me explain why that does not work. Nick, hold on. Let me explain to you. Nick, hold on. Let me explain to you why that does not work, especially at this moment in time.
Don't explain it to me. Explain it to Jimmy. He's the guy making
if you can let me get it out, then I can explain it to everyone who's possibly watching, and not just yourself who's interrupting me. The reason that does not work now is currently the Republican Party owns everything. The conservatives own the media. The number one shows on the media in YouTube are all conservative. The number one followers and stuff like that in the media in TikTok, it conservative. The media itself, Nexstar and Sinclair, biggest pieces of local media that are out there, they're on conservative. The number one shows on the major broadcast, Fox News, that's conservative. They own the government because they have the House, the Senate. They own most of the states most of the states are red, 26 to 24, if I'm correct. It might be even 27 to 23. Then on top of that, they own the presidency. So right now, you're saying that the Democrats should just sit back and just take it as they take away the First Amendment rights of anybody who disagrees with the Republican Party. How are you going to then allow for anybody to have a word when you have an authoritarian who takes control of everything? Ask anybody in Russia right now if they speak out against Putin, what happens? Ask anybody up under Viktor Orban. That's the same thing that is going on. So when you're saying just sit back and live to fight another day, well, that another day, we're at a precipice where that another day will not come.
All right. So let some other people bring us back. Bring us back. Where is it? Where is everybody here? Hello. Come on. What's going on?
That's what Nick did. I don't know. He put me up there.
Okay. But let's talk money. So the Disney Corporation makes $90 billion a year. About $15 billion of that, though we don't know since they don't have to report income of ABC, but maybe about 15 billion of that comes from ABC. And it's 225 local affiliates. ABC only owns 8 of its local stations. The other 225 are owned by affiliates. So 1/7 of them are owned by Sinclair. Another 1/7 are owned by Nexstar, both conservative groups of broadcasters, and they have ABC by the balls financially because ABC can't tell Sinclair to go suck eggs because there goes, I guess, about 1/7 of their income.
Man, Rick, that's all great information, but none of this is happening unless the FCC chair makes threat. So it doesn't matter about Nexstar, how many this and how many that. And you can say that it was a business decision. The business decision did not come into play until the FCC chairman said something.
True, but let Sasha say something.
I have a question. ABC, it's their product is intellectual properties that they are airing, and they air on all those affiliates and all this stuff. But all that is coming from creative efforts of producers, of actors, of anchors, of anybody operators, whatever. So what if all of them would just happen to walk away, say for a week, and say, okay, now we are talking. We are one who really runs the ABC, nobody else. So you have to do this, and that. What do you think would happen? And mind you, wouldn't hurt the case if
a little of that is, some of that is happening. Damon Lindelof, a famous producer who produced and created Lost, says he will not work with ABC until they bring Kimmel back. But a problem with that is that the creative product, for the most part, is already in the pipeline. That you create things, months ahead of, and ABC has a bunch of stuff they replaced Kimmel in most markets with a rerun of a game show. I think Celebrity Family Feud. Yep. So, which is an entertaining show, and so ABC has enough product to fill any holes in its lineup for months to come.
But to
No,
Sasha's point,
I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about all staff who is involved not only in production but in daily running of the program. Even if you have a pipeline, somebody has to operate that pipeline. Somebody has to move that show at 7 o'clock or at 8 o'clock. Somebody must regulate lights. There are a lot of hands involved.
So, but those people are not going to walk away from their jobs, especially. I mean, and one is they will want to keep their jobs. Two is, I don't think ABC is the bad guy in this. ABC is the guy whose balls are being, the FCC has grabbed their nuts and is squeezing. And, ABC could be brave, but I don't think they want to be brave at the cost of losing billions of dollars in revenue. ABC, I think ABC believes in Kimmel, and they are, I'm sure, negotiating to get him back on the air. But they're going up against the government and their own affiliates. I don't have a lot of love for ABC. I sued ABC.
Yeah, I got that. But to Sasha's point and everything like that, wasn't there a major strike that was recently held with a lot of the writers and other talent that were concerned about a number of things? So if that's what I think that Sasha is saying, if those people go back on a strike and they kind of like put the screws back on the government and on ABC.
Yeah, so we have a practical example of what happens when you walk off, when you go on strike. Since the strike, TV and movie production in Los Angeles is down 40%. The producers of entertainment, the people that we struck against, were like, yeah, well, maybe we don't need to make as much stuff. So yeah, we got a bunch of concessions from these giant corporations, but they in turn were like, you guys can F off. We just won't make stuff. It's so.
Yeah, but they shouldn't go on strike. If they're going to do anything at all, they should either fight and get fired, or what they should do is settle. But it sounds to me that they're more, it sounds to me, given the nature of who Jimmy Kimmel is, because remember, this is Jimmy Kimmel and ABC's deal, that he'll probably end up settling. And a lot of cases do get settled in some format. I'm not sure what they're negotiating right now, but if you want me to say, hey, what do you think is going to happen? Because Rick, since you knew Jimmy, because a lot of it has to deal with the aggrieved party. What does he want? And it sounds to me that he's probably looking for a settlement, and this will probably be settled. Now, even if it does get settled, this is where I agree with Jacoby, even though he's not here. It's always easier to agree with Jacoby if he's not around. That you have still not really solved the First Amendment problems in the United States. In other words, we have a very serious problem here. Okay, that the government is influencing our media, similar to the government influences the Russian media. Now, Sasha, you should have stayed in Odessa, and you should have taken up arms against the Soviet Union. How would that work for you? It wouldn't work very well.
Well, here's another problem.
Toby's mind, because he's such a purist, he would have had you fighting with your little bayonet against the Russian army, and you'd be dead and nothing would happen. So there's a practical aspect. I think this is where Jimmy Kimmel's going toward, the practical aspect of settling, even though he might be right. In other words, you're right, but so what?
Here's a major problem. Tomorrow marks 8 months of Trump in office. We're only 1/6 of the way through his president. We have another 40 months to get.
Right. Yeah. But the thing is, okay, let's look at if Jimmy Kimmel eats the humble pie on this one. In other words, he goes, okay, I was wrong. Here's some money for the thing, blah, blah, blah. Like I say, live, fight, run away. You get to live and fight another day. In other words, pick the battle which you can win. Don't pick a battle which right now you're going to have your butt handed to you. There's a lot of things he can do if he strongly believes in the First Amendment under the ground to make a difference. It's just like that crazy guy who went back to Russia. Well, let's take a look at Kasparov. Kasparov realized if he stayed in Russia, he was dead meat. He would have eaten meat, would have poisoned him, and he's gone. So he bolted over here. And he can spend time undermining what's going on over there from here. This other guy, I forgot his name, but he flew back to Russia. And guess what? He got poisoned and he died. I mean, or he got arrested and he died. Who was it?
Navalny.
Navalny. Right. Okay. Navalny. Now, the thing is, when I looked at it from a purist standpoint, yeah, you go back to Russia and fight. But from a practical standpoint, he would have been better off fighting here than fighting over in Mother Russia, which he lost the battle already.
I agree.
You've got to be practical. And I think Jimmy Kimmel is going to be very practical. Live, fight, run away. And then he gets to fight another day, this battle. Don't fight it on this.
I saw your hand, Sasha, and everything.
But
But Nick,
last night.
and I saw your hand, Rick, too. But Nick, one quick question about that, and all along those lines. If you've got people that are being suppressed, I think that's where Jacoby was going earlier and everything. What stops the snowball from rolling if you concede one time? Because then you will have people that will be, and we're already seeing this, that the universities will be not having as many people doing their protests. There'll be less First Amendment things that are just and everything like that. So it becomes a snowball effect.
Mark, not really. You reorganize your troops and you fight another day. It's just like you fight another day on a different hill. Don't die on this hill. You know, as a lawyer, you're very practical with your clients. And one thing that's practical is a lot of them, they really believe in X, Y, Z. I mean, I get this all the time. And I said, okay, that's great. You want to die on this hill? No, I don't. Well, then pack up the hill and concede and then move to another place where you're on high ground. And every war is fought that way. You know, Napoleon, they waited until the guy went to Waterloo and he was on the wrong side of the hill. As a matter of fact, it was a really bad side of the hill. And of course, he got beaten, and that was it for Napoleon. But if you had tacked him on the straight ground, you would have lost. And so the thing is, it doesn't, what I'm saying from a practical standpoint, it doesn't matter. And it sounds to me, talking to Rick, who knows Kimmel personally, the guy is very practical.
I haven't worked for Kimmel in 11 years, so don't take what I say as anything.
I know, but it sounds to me he's not a type of guy who wants to die on this hill. He would rather reform, go somewhere else, put this one in his pocket, and then if he really strongly believes in First Amendment, okay, fight on another ground somewhere else. Don't fight on this battleground, which is stacked against you. And it sounds to me that's what he's going to do. Settle and move on. Don't fight. And now what Mark is saying is that, hey, you lost ground here, and if you don't defend on this hill till you die, then there's not another hill. That is not true. Bunker Hill, if they had fought till they all died, there wouldn't be a Revolutionary War. It had been over. But instead, they saw themselves losing.
Should we talk about something else? We've spent like
Jimmy Kimmel is so much fun to talk about because the thing is, he's like your former boss has definitely made it into the news, and definitely.
All right, so let's widen out the focus a little bit. So, the widow and children of Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated, they have been through GoFundMe and other charity websites. They have been raking in, and $1 million a day.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I think, was a week since he was murdered, and they've made $7 million. So they're $2 million a day, and and that's, I mean, good for them. That'll provide for the family.
I'd like to point out something very interesting, that his family is doing so much better financially than while he was alive. So he's dead. He is much more useful for his family, wife, children than when he was alive. That's
no, because Charlie Kirk was 31, and in 31 years he'd amassed a fortune of $12 million.
That's not that much at all for a successful speaker, well known around the world, who has a billion people audience. $12 million, any schmuck can make $12 million.
Well, my question, since I've been in this industry for 41 years, did he have a life insurance policy, or do we know?
The point is, his family would much rather have him alive.
Yeah, I'd rather have him alive than $7 million, because, hey, look, I think he had $4 million before. $4 million, $7 million, it's not going to change their life a lot. Him dying will change the kid's life.
His wife has announced that she will now head the organization that he used to head.
Yeah,
And
okay.
they will probably be, people think that they will be even more effective with Charlie as a martyr, and that they will, their job, the job of Turning Point, was to recruit young people to the conservative cause or to the MAGA cause.
Right. Yeah, I comprehend. I mean, the thing is, whether it's them or someone else, they're going to continue whatever they're doing.
I would like to ask you a question. Are you aware that there is a still ongoing lawsuit between New York Times and Trump?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, I saw it was like 15 billion, and when you see those, Sasha, it's just like Newman's suit against Magnus. I want 5 million. They settle out of court. No one knows what they settled for, but they settled. When Trump goes, I want 15 billion. That's more to make headlines than reality.
Hold on. We're not talking about merits of the suit, not at all.
Yeah, what are the merits of that case?
I don't care what are the merits. What I noticed is that so far, whoever Trump sued settled, whoever for $15 million and for some other money, they're all settling. What I want to tell you is that when Hitler came to power in Germany, he didn't start Holocaust right next day then he came to power. No, it was very slow process that sometimes they ask some wealthy Jewish
they to
another place. They didn't take them to Dachau or to Auschwitz. Okay, next day, okay, so you should wear
it was evolutionary
stars. That's not a big deal. Okay, so you wear, some people don't wear yellow stars and you do well. What's the big deal about it? So what I'm saying is that right now US is going into fascist dictature. And if there will be no resistance to Trump whatsoever, there will be complete cancellation of elections. They will win every election.
Trump is facing an enemy he cannot beat. And I'll tell you what his enemy is. Sasha, how old is Donald Trump?
79.
Yes, he's going to turn 80. Okay, and here's the problem. He's not young like Adolf Hitler. This guy's going to be 80 bloody years old, and I'm sorry, 80. You're not on your up cycle, my friend, and he won't be on his up cycle either. So I don't see him being significant in any format after 3 years from now. In other words, he's going to be basically, you and I and everybody here is going to be talking on Pod TV 3 years from now, and Trump will not be our conversation. You know why? Because he won't have anything. There'll be nothing to talk about.
Nick,
let's talk about JFK. You guys want to talk about JFK and his influence today?
Nick,
oh, well, he's been dead for years. So
no one except Trump, no other U.S. president would lay out foundation for his system to continue to function well even after his death. Let's see, Trump is, okay, there was helicopter almost crashed. Let's see, he would be killed in that crash. It wouldn't change anything because there's a J.G. Vance, there is a Hexa, there is a whole machinery. It would continue to function, maybe even more.
It'll continue to function at a very minor level. Okay, in other words, MAGA or whatever they call themselves used to be the Tea Party, and the Tea Party is a bunch of white rednecks that think they're paying all the taxes in the world, and they really aren't, because they live in Kansas and they live in North Dakota, and for them, they have no idea how the rest of the world works. And unfortunately, I have to work with some of these people every now and then. Okay, that movement kind of got lucky, okay, to win the presidency again, Sasha. I mean, because the Democrats fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be around for the next 4 years. I'm not even sure if they're going to make the midterms. Here'd be my prediction. They're going to lose the House and Senate in about 18 months. And I'm pretty good at this stuff. I mean, I told you Trump was going to win years before he got there. But they're going to lose the House and the Senate. Now you're going to have a very interesting scenario. The Donald will not get his way anymore. And not only that, once they control the Senate, once the Democrats control the Senate and the House, it's going to be chaos because they're going to be in fights all the time. It's going to make our media thing shoot up. Watch, because people are going to be watching the Democrats hauling the Republicans in to Congress for these hearings, which right now you don't hear anything for. But
so I want to go back to lawsuits for a second. Trump has been involved in 5,000 lawsuits,
or his companies have. Not
yes,
even.
but he loves using that as a tool. It's if you can spend the money, it's fun to sue people, because when somebody gets a legal letter saying you're being sued, it turns their world around. It's brutal.
And you know that
but what happens is you have your nuisance lawsuit, and Trump's does nuisance lawsuits. You go to court, the judge looks at the lawsuit and says, this is bullshit, I'm throwing this out, and you have to pay legal costs. But this is months down the line. The person being sued has to hire a lawyer. They have a bunch of sleepless nights, and it costs the suing party, I don't know, $20,000. If you have that money to spend, which Trump thinks he does, it's fun.
Nick, you asked an interesting question. Hold on a second. Nick, you asked an interesting question. I was looking it up, and I saw this Substack from a writer, and they actually were asking the same question. I do not understand insurance, so I'm going to read this very quickly, and you can explain it to me. But it says, according to Turning Point USA's own IRS Form 990 filing, the nonprofit made a $350,000 loan to a company owned by Charlie Kirk for the purpose of a split dollar life insurance policy. Most Americans understand what that means. In short, it's a financial arrangement where the organization pays large premiums on a policy with the expectations of reimbursements later, but only after death or policy maturity. So $350,000 in premium over a 1 to 2 year period suggests a death benefit in the $5 million to $10 million range, possibly more. Split dollar policies have a 2 year contestability window. After that, payouts can't easily be denied. Charlie was killed just after that window closed, and they said this isn't proof of anything, but it's kind of a statistical alignment that raises legitimate insurance fraud flags in the private sector. So what are your thoughts around that?
The split dollar is quite common, because what happens in many cases, if you work for a company, the company will pay your premiums for you, hence they call it split dollar. And what your contract with your company is that if you die, you return the premiums back to them and you keep the remainder of the death benefit. But what tells me he did have a significant life policy, if that's true, Mark. So his family will end up with basically 5 to 10 million tax-free, because he died while he had a life policy. So more power to him.
And of course, they would rather have him alive.
Yeah, right. Because the thing is, his economic value is more than that. Just trotting along the way he is. So, but they'll at least have.
I have a story that's not related to this at all. That is crazy. Nick, you're in Spain, and I don't think you speak much Spanish. Doesn't matter anymore, because today there are new AirPods, those little ear deals that have come out that translate in real time. This is so crazy. If somebody speaks to you in Spanish, you can set up your AirPods that you hear them speaking to you in English. This is
watch Coco's show from yesterday and everything. There was the gentleman. Unfortunately, the AirPods weren't working all that well and everything, but he was actually wearing those. Speaking of technology, he was actually wearing the glasses where I think I don't have my glasses on, but the back of the ear was actually where the earplug was and everything, and up at the front of the glasses was his microphone. So he was actually using a computer microphone, and that was his electric connected to his glasses and all of that.
Your glasses can now function as a video.
Yeah, but what you're saying is true, Rick. Right now we use Google Translate. I use it all the time, and I can instantly, if Sasha was talking in Russian, I'd be able to put my Google Translate and instantaneously listen to everything he says and shoot back in. But now they're doing it with AirPods.
So why should every one of us why should we have to take a foreign language?
You don't. It will be unnecessary.
Because I took 5 years of French. I can't speak French. It was.
I know, and it's harder when you get older to learn a language. But you do it because it's just. You feel better talking to them without having to put earpods on.
All right, but if you took the time that people are forced to waste on learning a foreign language in high school, and use that class time to teach people financial literacy,
they'd be better off. I totally agree with you, because what's happening, technology will supplant and the ability that your necessito to learn a language, basically. And it's a real problem because, like, when I go to Hungary, I got to learn Magyar. I don't know Magyar. Then I ran to Czechoslovakia, and they speak some other weird language, some Czech language. I don't know anything about that. And as you keep running around Europe, they all speak, and then even here in Basque country, they speak some other different dialect.
Yeah, Catalan, a language.
Well, Catalan they speak in Catalonia, but Basque country they speak like Uriska or something like that.
The language only spoken by like 200,000 people or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but Google Translate now going on to AirPods, you really won't have to learn anything. You just put your AirPods in, you'll be able to communicate. I totally agree with you. The next 5 or 10 years, learning a language will be, hey, if you want to, fine, but if you don't, it's really not necessary.
Use that class time to teach people coding.
Yeah, right. Or like you said, some basic finance, which people don't know. Now, getting back to Trump's litigation, all attorneys know this. If you want to be in litigation, the most litigated area in law is real estate. Like, no kidding. We had a real estate division, and boy, it attracts litigation like flies because landlord tenants sue each other all the time. Owners sue each other all the time. Homeowners associations sue each other all the time. I mean, it's like a quagmire of lawsuits. So part of the reason Donald was involved in all these lawsuits, he was in the cesspool of legal practice, which is real estate law. I mean, it just is. If you want to get out of litigation, there's a lot of places you can go to, almost any other one, and you don't have that much. The area I
looked up, you can look up a chart of what his lawsuits were about. Out of the 5,000, the biggest chunk of lawsuits were him going after casino deadbeats. He would extend credit to casinos.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
For the gamblers, and then they wouldn't pay up, and then he took them to court.
Oh, so he's chasing the deadbeats. Okay, so he probably had a law firm on retainer. That's what they specialize in.
Yeah, but he loved to sue because people would do work for him. A contractor, say that like somebody is a molding contractor. They come in, they install the crown molding in his casinos. They do $12 million worth of work. They do them, and Trump maybe makes an upfront payment of $2 million, and then they come for the other $10 million, and Trump says, "Well, I don't like your work, and I don't think you gave us good value, and so we're not going to pay." Then you sue, or you say, "Well, I'm taking you to court," and Trump says, "We will tie you up in court for 3 years. After 3 years of no income suing us, your business you'll be out of business. So I tell you what, we will pay you $3 million for your work." And so, and the contractor talks to his lawyers. The lawyers say he's right. He's got you over a barrel. To save your business, you take the shitty payment for total of $5 million. And Trump did this hundreds of times to people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the nature of a real estate people. I mean, on a personal basis, I did not like. We had a whole real estate division when I was practicing law. Okay, one guy ended up dead with a bullet in his head, covered to his neck with cement because his real estate deal went bad. The other guy ended up in jail for the rest of his life and died in jail. I mean, those were our two major clients. The real estate people, generally, not all of them, because we had some that were really, really good people, but some of them, they were just, I hate to say it, it was kind of a dirt bag group as a group. But then we had one of them that he bought and sold properties all the time, and the guy was just clean as a whistle. So, you can run into some very interesting, what I call characters in the real estate industry. With that, we're going to run into our time problem because I think there's another show going because these people all disappeared, and we will see you next week on World Edition. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.